guess that you would have difficulty to fathom. A very big privilege to have been there. House that overlooks North Head, Sydney, where the settlers come in to the harbour. To wake up to that every morning must be absolutely phenomenal. But with that said, we're out on the Brisbane Water, Central Coast, doing our stand-up paddleboard exercises for shoulders and abdominals. And some of you just are not going to be able to make it this morning. You've turned to another cigarette, another cup of coffee, and the day's started. You're watching the sun come up, but you just know that you're not in the right place that you should be. Maybe you're in bed, you just don't want to get out of bed. Too many things weighing you down, pulling you down. Cost of living and having to work all the time. Some of you may even be going to work on a Sunday. Life just hasn't allowed you to afford to relax, truly relax and enjoy yourself. Your lifestyle possibly has brought illnesses and sicknesses on you and your children, and that can be adult children as well, who followed in your footsteps, which makes you responsible for where they've ended up and how it's ended up for them, which is embarrassing really for many of you. And I'm sorry to put it that way, but sometimes a reality check shocks us into adjustments that we need to make in our lives for the benefit not only of ourselves but for those around us. You know, they say love hurts. Well, so does the truth, especially if we don't particularly want to hear it. And too often this is the case. That's why a lot of people don't develop. Sometimes we hear facts and figures and things that are presented to help us, but we don't allow them to because we're limited by our thinking, our culturalized thinking. I mentioned in a talk earlier about the Islamic Muslim radicals that can't help but bring trouble and ruin ultimately wherever they go because of the way in which they're being culturalized. If you've been bred as a child that the Jews or Israelis have to be eliminated along with the infidels, which is us Westerners, one way or another, well, you can be living in Australia and we're standing there saying to you, there's no need for this evil. We have everything that we could ever want. You're not going to change that. It's like teaching a dog to chase a ball as a pup. So whenever you pick up a ball, it gets excited and thinks you're going to throw the ball, but you may not necessarily be going to throw the ball. It's the same with the Islamic Muslim extremists. You can stand there and say, look, in our country we've realized, we know that wanting to destroy people or cultures or things like that that don't align with yours is going to bring harm not only to the people that you're opposing, that aren't opposing you, that want to be left alone, but also to yourselves. And that's what we see in Palestine. Of course, the government of Palestine, Hamas, if they are the government, who knows? They don't care about their people. So what I'm saying is, if this destructive mindset is culturalized into somebody or something, it is not going to change. Excuse me, viewers. Now, if you micro-incrementalize that and say, well, okay, there's my partner has this problem with aggravating me in terms of laziness. This is another way of looking at it. If that person has been run after by their mother or been mummy's little husband for years and all the rest of it, well, guess what? They're going to expect you to be. Now, they're not going to tell you this or reveal this until they've hooked you, but they're going to expect you to be the new mummy. You're my mummy. And it's quite depraved and bent and twisted, but it's how it works. Micro-incrementally, you can say to this person, you don't need to make me your mummy. You don't need to think that I need to be your mummy. But guess what they'll do? They'll still want you to be their mummy. I'm talking about adult men. And they'll still want you to run after them like you're their mummy. And they'll remain lazy. They sabotage their masculinity. And that's not attractive, but a lot of women get the thrill of thinking they have a higher identity by running around after this person in the character of their mummy. So you can say to them, you don't need to do this, you don't need to think that, it's not going to benefit me or yourself. But they still do it. That's what happens with the extreme Islamic Muslim radical fanatics. You can't change them. You can't reculturalize them. It's too ingrained. It's been ingrained for millenniums, and that's why the countries around Palestine will not let these people in. So they're flying them out to the Western world, and what do we see? Ruin and destruction. Because the Middle Eastern people already know it's culturalized into, it's bred into these people to ruin and destroy. And there's people that we find ourselves in relationships with that characteristically, on different levels and in different ways, laziness, gluttony, drunkenness, drugs, waste of money and all this other stuff, cannot change because they like it. That's the whole thing. They like the destruction. They like the attention that it brings. They like the ruin that it brings. And if they can pull you down, take you down with them, they will. So what do you need to do? You need to accept that what you're seeing is real. Accept that what you're seeing is harmful. Accept that what you're seeing is hurting the way that it's hurting, and that it's not a joke, it's not going anywhere, it's staying. And accept that you need to walk away. You need to stay away, go no contact, and never, ever, ever, ever go back.